All right. So you're all welcome to today's Sales Ki Pathshala. The topic for today is succession planning with a very strong focus on family managed businesses. So what we're going to talk today about is if you are the owner of a family managed business and if you're grappling with the thought of succession planning, then you're in the right program today. So we're going to have, as part of today's program, look into the finer nuances of a family managed business, a small and medium enterprise business owner who runs with this problem of succession planning. And the first question that we normally always ask is, have you chosen a successor? And I have met a lot of small and medium enterprises owners who feel that it is too early for me to appoint a successor, or it's too early for me to look for a successor. I also meet some of those middle-aged small and medium enterprise owners who feel that they are still young and it is too early for them to appoint a successor because they feel that they are still going strong and they can manage the whole thing. And I also meet a lot of old, so when I say old, I mean people who are beyond 60 years. And when I ask them that, have you chosen your successor? They say that I have been trying to choose my successor for the last 10 years, but my successor, my son, my daughter, or whoever he has chosen as a successor has chosen the bright idea of joining odd jobs in US. Maybe they have become a computer operator with Google in US, or someone has become a photographer with National Geographic. What I'm trying to communicate here, friends, is if you do not choose your successor on time, you are in problem. I am also trying to say that even if you choose your successor on time, but you do not know you're not clear about how to train and mentor and coach your successor, then still you are into problem. So let me begin today's session by asking this very basic question: have you chosen a successor? Now let's assume that you have chosen a successor, because if you have not chosen a successor, then you are going to be in deep trouble, because I strongly feel that there is no good time to choose a successor. Every time is good as long as you give it a priority. So let's start the discussion today by focusing on the fact that you have already chosen someone to become your successor, and you're now in the process of training that person to be able to become a good successor. Now, this is a classic case where we appoint successors and then we keep on training them for our entire life. I have met a lot of small and medium enterprises who say that when I ask this question, that how long you're going to train your successor, and the person says that, well, it took me around 20 years to get trained by my father. And when I ask a rhetoric question that, are you also going to take 20 years to train your son or your daughter or your successor? The father says that, well, it all depends on how fast my successor learns the ropes. And this is where the slide on your screen becomes very important, because it doesn't depend on the learner how fast he learns. It also depends on the person who is teaching, how fast you teach. So have you ever thought as an SME owner that it is all the onus of training your ward is also on you? Now here, this important question of a syllabus for training. Now, whenever I utter this word syllabus, people say that, hey, this is not an examination. Hey, this is not a university. So what is this syllabus you're talking about? Well, friends, the coaching, mentoring, training that you do for your successor has to have a boundary. It cannot be an open-ended training program, isn't it? So you cannot say that I have been training my ward for the last 5 years, for the last 7 years, for the last 10 years, and keep on proving the fact that you are a great person and your successor is not such a great person. It doesn't work. So fix a syllabus, which could be a suitable combination of human resource management, materials management, purchase management, sales and marketing management, finance management, with specific reference to your business. And then you must have the concept of assessment. Because many a times coaching a successor becomes a infinite period open-ended work. Why keep it open-ended? Why not have topics defined, and why not have an assessment system? Just like you have examination system in colleges and universities, why can't you have your own assessment system for training your successor? Define the periodicity of those assessments and ask your ward to start learning decision making of handing over. Now, needless to say that this assessment must be outsourced to professionals, subject matter experts, and consultants. You should not try to assess your own successor, just like a doctor never tries to do surgery on their own children, right? So try to appoint someone who knows this job and ask a third-party assessment and ensure that your successor is able to clear off all the topics within the periodicity defined for every assessment, right? So once this is done, I want to bring to you the next concept of succession planning. And generally in family managed business, it has been seen that there is always some bone of contention. Either people are fighting over the family share, or people are fighting over what kind of sharing between the uncles and the aunties and the nephews and the nieces. And the stem at the root of all this problem is the fact that there is a scion of the family who has played a major role in bringing business to this level. And somewhere he starts ruling the roost and is generally not able to satisfy every claimant to the throne, and gives rise to a lot of politics within the family, where there's a lot of backbiting, there's a lot of mudslinging, and finally, you do not have a happy family. You may have a great business. If you don't have a happy family, then somewhere your successor is going to bear the brunt of all this. If this is the scenario, then have you ever heard of the terminology called family board of directors? Now, I'm not talking about the company board of directors. I'm talking about the family board of directors, which is informal, which is not covered under the articles of association and the registrar of companies and so on and so forth. This is an informal family board of directors, but this board runs exactly the way you run your official board of directors. So let's look at the point. So what is the eligibility to become a director in the family board of directors? Well, even if you do not have a share in the family business, but you hold an important position in the family business, you can become a director. You can be a part of the extended family, important to the family. You can become a director in the family board of directors. So eligibility to become a director here has nothing to do with your share or your stake in the shareholding of the company. It is important to understand that we do not discuss classified information in the family board of directors. We discuss only non-classified information. Just like a proper board of directors, we give enough advance notice. We have a predefined periodicity for these meetings. We also maintain minutes of these meetings, and we seriously honor all the decisions taken in these meetings. So that's what I mean by a family board of directors. And this is not something which is my bright idea. This is something which all successful family-run businesses in the world have. So if you do not have a family board of directors, go back to the drawing board and see the possibility, study the possibility of how do you construct it. Just to get into the nitty-gritties of a family board of directors, just like you have a constitution and a preamble to the constitution to run the country of India, you also have rules and regulations to run a family board of directors. So you build a constitution for your family board and run your family board accordingly. Today, I have only this much time to explain to you about family board of directors, but you must understand the importance of this, and we take it further from there. Now, the third point in succession planning in family-run businesses is how do you value your assets? Now, let me explain to you a scenario. There's a scenario where you are the scion of the family. You are the one who has been responsible for bringing business to all this level. And your brother has stood behind you steadfast. Your brother has been very loyal to you. But the intellectual property of your business belongs to you because you thought about the idea. You created the value chain. You started your business. You bore all the risk. And today you are a successful business person. Now, this brother of yours, and I'm just taking a hypothetical example, this brother of yours or a nephew or a niece or uncle of yours who stood behind you as a support system, but not as a business person. When it comes to the point of taking a division on the family or taking a claim on this family assets, they strike a claim of equivalent hold. So if you have one brother standing behind you for the last 25 years in your business, just standing behind you, but not taking any of the risk of the business, and also not having made any investment into the business, suddenly claims that he deserves 50% of your business. Well, we will keep that discussion for another day. But what is important here to understand is even if it comes to the extreme stage of giving 50% to someone from the family who you feel doesn't deserve it, but they feel that they deserve it, this problem purely arises because you have not suitably ascribed a value to the intellectual property of your business. Just imagine for a moment that the intellectual property around which your business is framed is applied for a trademark, a registered mark, and then is suitably valued. And just for discussion's sake, we say that you have a business of 200 crores per annum turnover. And in this 200 crore per annum turnover, you have given a value of 50 crores to the intellectual property that you hold. Now, intellectual property will always figure in the reserve side of your books. It will never figure in the income side of the books. And intellectual property is not open for any division. It will always stay in the books. So I hope you understand the importance of intellectual property. Normally, SMEs and MSMEs in India, they do not do this. And when it comes to division, when it comes to sharing of rights, when it comes to taking a claim on the company, it's probably too late to be doing this. So I will take answers on your questions for all these points at the end of 4:30, because our program is till 4:30, and then half an hour we dedicate for your questions and answers. Meanwhile, if any one of you has any question, you can put it on the chat box so that I could answer them for you. Meanwhile, let me just check out, are you guys enjoying the program? Can you just write E in the chat box so that I know that there is full communication happening? Can you put an E in the chat box for me? Okay, I see a question there from Manoj Sahai, which says, what happens to IPR when there is a split in the company? Okay, I'll take that for you. So Manoj, when there is a split in the company, or if there is any stake to the claim, intellectual property is a permanent asset to the business entity, and it is not open for a split. So even when you do a valuation of your books of account, it always stays in the reserve option in your books of account. It is not treated as an asset or a liability, and hence it is not open for any division or any split. So more of that, Manoj, we can discuss when we do the live Q&A after 4:30. So thank you so much for your question. Let me just check if there's any other question there. Okay, I got a thanks from Manoj. Okay, thank you so much. Now we move on to this whole process of transfer of power. You know, typically in a SME and MSME business, and more so added with the fact that today the life expectancy has increased and people look young, feel young, behave young, even when they are 60, 65. Even till 70, I see people very young these days. The problem is that their children or their successors have already gone to the age of 25, 30, 35. And you still treat them as kids. You don't give them decision-making power. You are not ready for the transfer of power. You still feel that they are kids and they can't take financial decisions. You feel that they are going to blow away all the money that you earned the hard way out. And for some pretext or the other, you keep on delaying the succession planning, and the transfer of power never happens the way it is supposed to be. So let's quickly discuss on this phenomena of transfer of power. So the first point there is that as a doyen of the family, as an owner of your business, what is your next promotion? You're already the CMD of a company. So have you arrived at the last stage of your life? Do you think that there is no other promotion that you can get? Well, I would like to say that you're wrong. The next promotion in your life is you have to elevate yourself to the post of an advisor. Now, this is simply said and done, because someone who is a CMD of a company, who is signing checks and who is controlling all the money and the wealth power, suddenly is asked to become an advisor, and he says that, hey, this is like trying to convert an active LK Advani into an inactive LK Advani. And I'm sure you understand the context that I'm using it for. Here, if you want to elevate yourself as an advisor, and you also want to give decision-making power to your successor, the simple thing that you have to do is you have to create decision boxes. So let's assume that you create a decision box of a budget. So you say that, okay, you can start looking at procurement of raw materials within a budget of 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, whatever. You fix a budget. Within that budget and within a given decision box, allow your successor to take decisions. Allow your successor to fail, no problem. And mentor your successor on each failure. So essentially what I'm saying is, instead of handing over power immediately or in one go, or handing over power left with no choice because you have fallen sick and you are bedridden, instead of that, start giving decision-making power to your successor. Decrease the least count. So create decision-making boxes, provide a budget for each decision-making box, and allow your successor to drive that decision box, irrespective of being right or wrong, and try and mentor them on failure, if any. This is a very short and sweet process of the transfer of power, very powerful, very impactful. I have just tried to put it very simply in today's program because it's just a half-an-hour program, but I'm ready to take your questions, which comes out of this discussion. For those of you in this program who feel that you are waiting for your successor to become absolutely right before you will allow them to take financial decisions, I actually want to remind you that despite the fact that your father took 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to train you, you still did mistakes when you took over. So making a mistake or making a financial mistake in business is a part of learning the business. Don't try to superannuate over the fact that your successor is not going to make any mistakes. But if you allow the child to make a mistake within the decision box, which is budgeted by financial limits, I think that's a good way to take it forward. So target yourself. Promotion to an advisor is what we always look at. And when you have targeted yourself, promotion to an advisor, you will always have some unfinished agenda. It is never going to happen that you have finished your complete agenda, और वो जो पुराने जमाने की कहानी होती है जहां दादाजी या पापा जी बुला के बोलते हैं कि बेटा अब मेरी कंप्लीट एजेंडा खत्म हो गई है और अब मैं होशो-हवास में आपको सारी रिस्पांसिबिलिटी सौंप रहा हूं. ऐसा कभी नहीं होगा दोस्तों, because the world has become complex, your agenda is limitless, so you will always have some unfinished agenda. If you are always going to have some unfinished agenda, And most of the SME CEOs and MSME CEOs that I interact with, and when I ask them that, boss, when are you going to plan for your successor? The first answer that I get is, Sanjay, अभी तो बहुत काम करना है और मैं माशाल्लाह कर भी अच्छे से रहा हूँ, and I'm at the peak of my life right now. I'm very busy with my agendas, and I frankly don't have time for anything called succession planning. And they further go on to tell me that, Sanjay, while I appreciate this, while I know that it is very important, while I am trying to give full priority to it, but right now I am on an agenda, and let me finish this agenda and I'll talk about it. To all those uncles and aunties and grandpas and grandmas who are right now at the helm of affairs in their respective SME, MSME business, I would like to tell you that you will always have some unfinished agenda. So don't wait for your agenda to finish. It is the right time to actually appoint your successor today. And before I end my program today, I would take this opportunity to discuss this difference between a successor and heir. Now, a heir is a person who is defined in your will. So if you have 3 sons, 2 daughters, technically all of them are your legal heir. And if they're your legal heir, then based on what kind of submissions you have in your will statement, they have got a legal right to your wealth. But let us not confuse a successor in business with the legal heir. So legal heir has got a stake to the wealth, but successor is defined in your board of directors resolution. Successor is not defined in your will, right? And they are custodians of your wealth generation engine. Please understand, the legal heir is someone who is the consumer of your wealth. And successor is someone who is the custodian of your wealth, and he is also like a driver to your wealth generation engine. A successor is someone who's responsible for driving your wealth generation engine. They drive your intellectual property enterprise. They are not necessarily the consumers of your wealth. Why I'm coming out with this differentiation is, many a times we feel that it is only my son or my daughter who can become my successor. It's nothing like that. If you say that it's only my son and daughter and my wife or my chosen relatives who can have a stake to my wealth, well, go ahead. There is no problem with it. But when you make it obligatory that it has to be your son or daughter who will become your successor in family business, you're missing the point somewhere, right? While each one of us have our emotional attachment that our own children should become our successors in family business, but then please understand that the family business is a growth engine, is a wealth engine, is an enterprise engine, is an intellectual property engine. You cannot hand over a lovely car that you have built with your entire life in the hands of a driver who does not know how to drive that car. And I'm sure you understand the context of what I'm trying to say. So make your best effort to ensure that your biological children become your successors. But I can actually cast a number of examples for you to understand that there have been so many successful enterprises who have defined their successor outside their biological heir. So I want to end today's program by saying that you choose your successor, not your heir, because once you have biological children, they are not a matter of choice. You have to share your wealth with them. Of course, subject to the fact that you put that in your will, but you can choose your successor. So please make conscious efforts to choose your successor. Choose your successor on time and start mentoring them, coaching them, training them. Even if your successors, or if you want your successors who are still studying in school or college, define your syllabus. Pick up your time, define your syllabus, and take them through the proper grind. So towards the end, if I try to compress the last 25 minutes into one slide, my first step is decide. Decide on who is your successor, and you can be wrong in your decision, no problem. So have a plan A, have a plan B, and take that decision today. Whether you are 35-year-old or whether you are 60-year-old does not matter. Even if your child is in class 5, 6, and you say that my children are too small and it's too early for me to decide who is my successor, I do not agree to that. Well, you may not be actively coaching or mentoring your children right now because they're too small and they have to focus on their education. I fully agree with that. But you start planning as to how you would coach your successor. When would you start coaching your successor? What are the first 5 lessons you're going to give to your successor? What are the next 20 lessons you're going to give to your successor? So what is the periodicity of the training program? How you're going to assess your successor, and so on and so forth. I'm sure you can do that even today, irrespective of your age. And then the next step is train as per syllabus and time frame. So do not ignore the syllabus and time frame part of training your successors. Think exactly like a university, just like university has a degree, has an exam, and has an assessment test, and gives a degree at the end of the test. And remember that they give you a degree even if you get more than 60% mark, and they declare you as a first-class graduate. Imagine a scenario that your university would have given you a first-class graduate degree only if you would have got 100% marks. I'm sure all of us would have failed, isn't it? So this is exactly the way you train your successor. Don't wait for your successor to get 100% marks. A 65%, 70%, 75% marks in your internal assessment is good marks. Don't worry. The next step is create family board of directors. And this is something that you should do as a practice, as a culture, because most of the internecine family differences starts at the family level, the extended family members, the fuas, the chachas, the chachis, and the masers and the masers. So these are the people who actually create internecine family disputes. So create family board of directors and try to run the family board of directors exactly the way someone would run a business board of directors. Fourth point, elevate yourself to advisor. So don't think that CMD is the last post for you. Once you become chairman come managing director, the next post for you is to elevate yourself to become an advisor. The specialty here is that there is no HR department which is going to come and elevate you. You have to elevate yourself. And that's a matter of pride and privilege for anyone to elevate yourself to the board of advisors. When you elevate yourself as an advisor, I have already discussed with you that take calculated risk, don't take uncalculated risk. So create decision boxes, budget for each decision box, and allow your ward or your successor to make mistakes within the decision box, because that's the time when they will learn. Just think of the time when your child started walking. I'm sure first time when your child started walking, the child fell more number of times than the child could walk. And I know that when your child started walking, while you were there beside the child to lend your hand so that the child does not fall, but still the child did fall a couple of times and finally learned how to walk. So that is something similar to the decision boxes that I'm talking about and the budgets that I'm talking about, and how do you fill that gap so that you are able to elevate yourself to an advisor. Whenever I speak to SME owners, I always ask them that, do you have any plan of becoming an advisor to this company? And if yes, then what is your plan? What is the time frame? And what is the modus operandi that you have fixed for yourself for this elevation? And believe me, friends, generally I don't get a good answer to this. And the last step, of course, is recognize your heirs. Your legal heirs are someone that you have to recognize, but choose your successors. Don't recognize your successor, choose them and invest into them. So your unfinished agenda in life is your backlog. Why delay the successor in their agenda? That's the final message that I would like to leave all of you with. Your unfinished agenda in life is your backlog. Don't delay your successor because of this agenda. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for participating in today's Sales Ki Pathshala. For those of you who have come for the first time, I would like to educate you that this happens every Wednesday at 4 p.m. on Zoom these days. And we call it a join us for a weekly dose of business development initiatives. We have an annual package for enrolling. So 52 weeks without fail, you can get into an annual package for this. And you can use one registration to train your entire office on business development. So if you have 10 people in your office, you don't have to buy 10 licenses. You just buy one license and participate in that program with your entire team. So that's a bit about Sales Ki Pathshala, and we also request you to join our YouTube channel. This is the address of YouTube channel, and on our YouTube channel, there are more than 780 videos right now. And every day at 7 p.m., we upload a new video on business development. So those are the two bit of informations for all of you. So that brings us to an end to today's Sales Ki Pathshala. Thank you very much for joining us.